Scott Spencer, the president of OIDA, said, and I love this quote, and I try to repeat it as much as I can. He said, if you're talking about something that actually really does deliver benefits for all around, you don't have to mandate stuff like that. People gravitate to it. They go after it and say, I want it because it makes everything better.
So let's start off with this. Probably a lot of folks are not aware of this or don't know the details of this. Can you explain in layman's terms what the Washington State Climate Commitment Act is and what it's designed to do?
So I read the article and it's a little confusing. So what they're trying to do in layman's terms, I believe so, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're trying to impose extra taxes for diesel fuels and for truckers, but they're giving a 5-year slider, I believe, for agriculture transportation. So that means, if you have anything to do with agriculture, you're exempt. But there's a problem with this. All the product, there is a lot of agriculture in the state of Washington, but not as much as everybody thinks, like not as much as the state of California. But we are hauling food products. And what about the products that we're bringing in that are not agriculture products? For example, JKC, we specialize in frozen refrigerated. So we're bringing the good people to Washington. I mean, frozen bread, meats, hot dogs, cheeses, Greek food, gyros, very delicious. All kinds of product that we're bringing, the people of Washington State consume, we're not going to be exempt. And how's this? If we don't get a load, let's say if Apple's coming back, so that, I believe that is going to cover the exemption, but not going to be enough because how's this? Since COVID, I don't have to tell you, but the trucking industry has been dealing with the shockwave that COVID has caused. All our costs have skyrocketed, gone up, fuel's gone up. We're struggling to stay in business. On top of that, inflation is killing the American people. Going to a grocery store, gives me anxiety. I have a small family. I'm sure the American people feel the same way. And because of this inflation, we're dealing with volume volatility, which is another problem because what that means is that the volumes of consumption have gone down because the American people can't afford it. And the truckers are fighting for the product that's going to all over the U.S. And it goes to the lowest bidder, even though our costs are higher than ever. So yeah, it makes it very difficult to bring product. So to summarize, it's going to cost more for the truckers for us to operate in the state of Washington. You might as well just throw in California and Oregon because they're all kind of the same boat. It's going to cost us more to do our job and feed the American people. So what happens is, all this gets trickled down to the end user, the American people. It's going to hit the people on the West Coast and right in the wallet.
Okay. Now I know some aspects of this. I know they require basically anyone covered by this act to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 95% from 1990 levels. And this is by, I guess, 2050, so years from now, but still 95% from 1990 levels. And that kind of raised a point to me right away, is how emissions compare now with those in 1990. And could this end up being more than a 95% reduction from what we're dealing with today?
Yeah, it's crazy what's happening, because how's this? I support green energy, and I believe the truckers do support green energy. But it's extremely frustrating, and I don't agree with these regulations because they're not practical. Banning diesel is impractical and impossible. How's this? To give you an example, there is one. What are they called? There's one coalition, I forget what they're called, the Clean Air Act Coalition, I believe so, that did a study that a truck from 1986 gives off the same emissions as 60 current new semi trucks give off, which I think is a huge step in the right direction. And for these emissions that are put on their trucks, they're doing their job. Are they practical? Do they work for the truckers? I would say no, but it's probably for a separate interview. But we're going in the right direction, And how's this? Charging more for diesel is not going to bring it down because we don't have other technology to replace it with. And everybody's like, well, we'll replace it with EVs. Sure, okay, but what would charge these EVs? And I mean, how's this? There's a problem with EVs. Say there's 5 points that I have a issue with EVs. The costs are astronomical. In infrastructure, we're not ready. Power grid's not ready. There's not enough charging stations. There's not enough parking stations for trucks right now, let alone charging stations. The testing and data on these trucks is being done right now, which is kind of scary because how's this? How are these trucks going to perform in the elevations of Washington and the mountains? How are they going to perform in Death Valley, 100-degree heat, or minus 25 degrees in Montana in the winter? Because one of the main ways to kill a lithium battery or any battery, I believe so, is extreme heat and extreme cold, which people don't understand. And if we move away from this technology, we need a proven technology. We need something better than what we have right now. But also, fourth point was driving range, or I like to call it range anxiety. These trucks go home make like 300 miles. It's a complete joke because we're long haul truckers. So when my truck leaves Illinois, it's 2,100 miles each way to the state of Washington. So we're barely get out of Illinois. If you and I jump in a truck, we're gonna have to shut down and recharge for 12 hours. So it's gonna make the trip much longer. Like I said, impractical. And then the fifth point, we're gonna have less cargo capacity due to the weight of the batteries. I believe these batteries are gonna be 8,000 pounds each, 16,000 pounds extra to the truck, which is going to be also cause safety issues in my opinion. But I mean, we're regulated to 80,000 pounds gross to go over the interstates in the U.S. So two things are going to happen. You have to either lift the weight restriction, or we're going to have to take less cargo due to these batteries.
Which is going to put more trucks on the road.
Correct. More trucks on the road, and how's this? I believe the truckers need an affordable hybrid truck. I would like to see a hybrid truck with two systems of power. Why? Because right now we have diesel. When a diesel goes down, I would like to, set up run another system, even if it be electric, that'd be great. Just so we could keep going. One shuts down, we could continue with the other. Because if this technology fails, the entire supply chain will be dead in the water. Failure is not merely going to be inconvenient; it's going to be catastrophic for the American people. It can't be. I mean, and don't get me wrong, there might be some super technology that comes out, some battery that goes in a truck that we could charge up in 20 minutes and it goes 2,000 miles with a charge through all the heat. I mean, I do believe in miracles. I haven't seen this technology yet, but how's this? Diesel is still the only way to go, in my opinion.
One of the other aspects of this law in Washington State is what they call a cap and trade program, where every business has got a total amount of emissions that they can produce. And if they want to produce more, they can buy the right to produce more from businesses that didn't use all of their allowance. And I guess this is operating in Washington State at this point. I think so. Have you had to deal with that with your trucking operation in the state yet?
Not yet, but these crazy laws are coming, and it's not only coming from Washington. California is like leading the way with this stuff, and other states, which is kind of, like I said, it's impractical because us truckers, we're delivering food to the American people. So we if anything, we should, get a discount because we're essential workers. We're feeding the people. I mean, how's this? A load of PlayStations is not as critical as food that we're hauling, I believe. Don't get me wrong, PlayStations are still, needed, but we need to make priorities here. And then they chose agriculture because they can say, oh, agriculture is the easy one. And agriculture, I feel, is the smaller one out of this because when you look at the state of Washington, I would say the bulk of the product coming in is not agriculture, and agriculture season is short in Washington, in my opinion. I love Washington apples, but it's not going to cover, these high costs. We should be working together to lower these costs, not to bring them up. The people of Washington one day are going to wake up and have a rude awakening that they're going to pay $25 for a gallon of milk because of all these regulations. I mean, how's this? To give you an example, back in the day, pre-COVID, Washington, Oregon, the Northeast West was a very strong point for us. We were going to 40, 50 trucks a week to there. And now, because of the overregulation in these states, it's hard to get drivers to go there. It's a beautiful drive. I mean, it's rough terrain in the winter, but the overregulation the drivers have to deal with the police and DOT stations. They say this is all for our safety. I mean, I'm all for the safety, but the safety should be the same through all the states. Not that we walk. I mean, it should be the same as Washington, as Illinois, as California, as Las Vegas. It shouldn't be any different. And this is the problem I have. It's much different. We could be pulling state to state is a huge burden on us. And how's this? I have a hard time getting truckers to go to those states. I mean, we go now about 4 to 8 trucks a week. We used to go 40, 50. And the only reason I have 4 to 8 trucks a week is because I have drivers that live in those states and want to go to those states. So how's this? If I'm dealing with this problem, all the other trucking companies are dealing with this problem because they say, hey, look, I mean, I don't need this. Life is short. I mean, I'll go somewhere else. I'll go to Idaho. I'll go somewhere where I'm accepted. And I don't blame them. I mean, these drivers are trying to support their families.
As you're running into that, and I assume other carriers are as well, I would assume that the only way to get more truckers into those areas would be raising the rates that the truckers are paid. I mean, is it having that effect at this point yet?
Yeah, so we're already seeing that. So the rates for the Northwest are already elevated pre-COVID, because I mean it's a difficult state to go to. Like I said, I mean not all drivers want to go there, so the rates are just automatically already elevated. And with this fuel and these EPA regulations, they'll continue to go up. So how's this? They're going to be in a rude awakening when they wake up one day and they say, hey, look, why does it cost so much? Or why can't we get capacity to this state? And it's going to all be on their legislation or rules that they pass. I mean, I've been saying forever that, the truckers need to sit down with the government so we could show them our problems, so we could educate them, show them our issues, so we can come up with solutions together. So this economy roaring again. And the problem we're having with these states, each state is like kind of acting like its own country, making these regulations, and we should be doing it as a whole, as a country, as the U.S. I mean, last time I checked, to make this work. And it's I feel like we're fighting state to state, which is becoming very difficult to operate and run a trucking company.
One of the things that I'm curious about that I haven't seen addressed in any of this is how these regulations are going to affect fuel for reefer units, because obviously that's a big part of what you're doing. And traditionally, as I recall, reefers have been allowed to use a different type of fuel.
Correct,
Um,
correct.
has this affected it? How has it affected it? What's going on there with reefer fuel?
No, and thank you for bringing it up. And I forgot to say that, not only are we burning diesel to, drive the product to the West Coast or wherever we go, we're running a reefer, which is the refrigeration unit in front of the trailer. It runs diesel. So legally, diesels are considered off-road equipment, like farm equipment, and we could run off-road fuel, which is that red fuel that you see out there. There are always people are testing it and using it because it has less taxes. I forget, like 15, 20 cents less off-road fuel, to save the truckers. That's a good question because I haven't seen that in that article. And what are they going to say to off-road fuel? I believe they didn't mention it, so it won't be affected. But how about this? I mean, all these changes come out of nowhere, so maybe they didn't catch that yet. But I would say like agriculture. So the farmers are using this off-road diesel fuel to farm with. I mean, they could use it in their equipment, hauling the stuff because it's technically off-road. But I mean, I don't know what the future is going to tell because I mean, the state of Washington kind of makes these regulations up as they go. And I don't live there. Also, I live in Illinois, so we don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Kind of looking at this from kind of a devil's advocate point of view, as someone who buys a lot of fuel for your fleet, does it appear that this cap and trade situation is going to directly drive up fuel prices, or are we seeing oil companies take advantage of this and raising the price more than maybe the market would otherwise dictate? Is this strictly the cap and trade and the emissions regulations doing it, or is it something else?
That is a great question. That is a great question. I think it's gonna be a combination of both. The cap and trade is definitely gonna raise it because Washington is already having all these restrictions about bringing fuel into the state and all this stuff. And I can see the oil companies saying, hey, look, what I mean, we're gonna sprinkle some extra on top for profits this year. How's this? I'm only telling you as a business owner. I'm not an economist or a fuel expert, just to be clear. But it could be a combination of both. But how's this? Either or is bad for truckers. So
As I understand it, there is a ballot initiative there in Washington State. I think it's Initiative 2117, something like that, and
mhm.
it's designed to reverse this climate law in that state. Um, can you tell us anything about that effort? Are you aware of it? Have you been talking with people involved with it?
So I've only read about it. I've never talked to anybody involved. And how's this? I think it should go through because how about this? It's not going to be practical. How's this? So raising diesel, how is that going to make less emissions? I, that's not because we're still gonna have to move the product. We don't have another newer technology to. It's not like we've came up with a new technology like say hydrogen engines are coming in, right? Hydrogen engines are the next new thing. Water vapor comes out of the exhaust. I haven't seen one yet, but let's say they're selling hydrogen trucks and they say, look, don't buy diesel, buy hydrogen, and we'll give you a discount, or hydrogen will be cheaper. This is your option. We have no options. This is it. EVs are coming, but even when the EVs come, this is new technology. It's not going to be able to replace all the hundreds of thousands of trucks. I say, guessing there's about 800,000 big rigs that operate in the state of Washington just by itself, or even more. You can't change that overnight. You know what I mean? And no matter how's this, you need a miracle to do something like that, and we're not ready. We're just not ready right now.
Well, and it looks like what they're trying to do, kind of looking at it, and again, as you said, neither one of us is an economist, but still, there's basic laws that I think we're all aware of, supply and demand,
Yes.
and they're trying to basically reduce demand by upping the price. And as you said, it seems to me that you it's different when you would have to go out and buy an entirely new machine to use the new fuel. I mean,
Mhm.
you really can't
Yep.
switch those trucks over to something else other than diesel the way they're built now, and the price of exchanging trucks is prohibitive right now.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. And one thing I want to bring up that you mentioned, Robert Kiyashiki. Sorry, I'm saying the name. I'm a fan, but Rich Dad Poor Dad. He said oil is the key to civilization. And why did he say that? So how's this? Let's say we get rid of all the trucks. We're still going to need oil because what do we produce with oil? Gasoline, jet fuel, diesel, heating oil, lubricants, waxes, asphalt, plastics. You mean how we can't get rid of oil forever because unless we figure out another way to make plastics and containers. Uh, my favorite is Tesla's. Tesla's use tons of and diesel to make all electric cars. We can't get away from this yet because we haven't found another replacement. So like let's say tomorrow we stop all the trucks, the state of Washington is still gonna need tons of oil to produce all these things because that's part of civilization.
Okay. One last question, and you've kind of referred to this a little bit, but you talked about how you've really reduced the number of trucks that you've got running in and out of Washington State. Do you foresee a time where, as a matter of cost control or just coping, that you might have to stop running in some states like Washington going forward?
I Yes, yes, yes. So right now we're just making a small profit if anything. But if regulations continue to go like this, we can get fined, or diesel, let's say is going to be, $3 more in the state of Washington. That's going to cost prohibit not only us, but other truckers. I mean, they're going to pretty much block themselves out of bringing product to them, and then by that time it's going to be too late. I mean, there's going to be empty shelves, there's going to be chaos. I mean, we can't allow this to happen. I mean, that's why I say it. I mean, it's impractical and not logical. I mean, I'm a guy of math, numbers, and science. You could tell me 100 times that this is going to, make Washington State better, but I only believe what makes sense and what is logical, and I can't see the logic in this.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to add, or maybe that I didn't ask about that you think I should have?
Yeah, one of the Todd Spencer, the president of OIDA, said, and I love this quote, and I try to repeat it as much as I can. He said, if you're talking about something that actually really does deliver benefits for all around, you don't have to mandate stuff like that. People gravitate to it. They go after it and say, I want it because it makes everything better. So if they come up with a technology the trucker's going to like, you're not going to have to mandate it like these EVs. They're going to say, hey, I like this technology. We're going to move away from diesel to this technology. And that makes a lot of sense. And like I said, one more thing, the truckers need an affordable hybrid truck with two systems of power. One goes down to continue with the other one, because truckers need a proven technology. Because if technology fails, like these EVs, the entire supply chain will be dead in the water. And failure is not merely inconvenient, it's going to be catastrophic. I mean, this is not an option, especially for the food supply chain of America.
Okay. Mike, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.